Okay, we're coming back. 3, 2, 1. Thanks everybody for hanging in there with us. I'm literally running this as bare bones.
Attention, stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. So thanks for joining us. Over the course of, I don't know how, the whole Trump reinstated thing works. I haven't looked forward to an August this much, and I don't know how long. Johnny, it's usually the month where news takes a bit of a break. We've learned,
usually.
Over the last few years, we've known that that's kind of actually not happened. It would be nice to have had another August vacation month where people it's just the general down month. Your last month with the kids and getting them ready to go to school and all that in the fall. So, it's that last chance to take that vacation to Trump land or Trump's casino someplace. And by the way, there's more information on the name of this plan is called Trump in Days Not Years.
Right.
And there's a website too. I didn't realize there was a website. The first plan is, of course, pull back the curtain, reveal the Achilles heel of the Democratic Party, which they call the Democrat Party. The second one was what's the second part of the plan, Johnny? What's the second step? We've revealed the Achilles heel. We've pulled back the curtain.
And now
Nancy Pelosi has melted.
Apparently we just have to sit back and watch.
Okay.
Witness a trusted conservative elected as Speaker of the House and finally reveal suppressed results of existing investigations into election racketeering. Ooh, I don't think that'll go as well as they want.
I don't, and by trusted conservative, do they mean Trump himself? Is that the question? You know what I mean? Or is it just...
Well, if he's going to be Speaker of the House, that's where they eventually want it.
Is that where this goes? We have to see the rest of this. Okay, so that's step 2. Okay, witnessing stuff. Great. Step 3 is correct the official record, reveal that Trump legitimately won the 2020 election. Yeah. Gavel that in. Gavel that garbage in.
That could be step 1, and then it'd be over.
Yeah, you would think that would actually be the thing. It's kind of like putting your hit third on the record. Maybe you're trying to anchor it in there. Maybe that's what it is. 4 is, of course, the Speaker of the House drafts articles of impeachment for Biden-Harris. So they buried the lead on this. Step 5 is citizen Donald J. Trump is placed into the line of presidential succession behind the vice president by electing him Speaker of the House. Oh, so it's a different Speaker of the House. So they bring in the ghost of Dennis Hastert or Matt. Maybe it's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Decides she's going to be temporary true Speaker of the House.
Yeah, she's on her way.
Yeah, by unanimous vote. And then let's see, Speaker of the House Donald J. Trump then calls for a vote to impeach, charge, and remove imposters Biden and Harris. All right, I'm not feeling. And by the way, I found the website. I looked it up. It's called Patriots. It's trumpcard.patriotssoar.com. SOAR, like fly, not like a festering, not like a festering hole in your skin.
Not SORE.
Not at all SORE. Right. And number 7 is, of course, duly impeach, charge, and remove Biden and Harris, whereby rendering all acts of said imposters while in office null and void and of no effect! ! Then duly elected Donald J. Trump resumes his rightful place as U.S. president. It's a 7-point plan to restore Donald J. Trump in days, not years, and that's the site. Trump, and the name of the website is Trump in Days, Not Years. So, And by the way, it opens with, I think, the most sort of rousing rally cry that you could expect. Rush taught us, fun wins, despair loses.
Ooh.
That would be Rush Limbaugh.
Is nothing if not fun.
Yes. Because he had Snurdgrass or somebody like that in the background all the time making jokes with him, right? his pretend dude. To get in on the fun and conversation, just email trumpcard@patriotsstore.com with the subject Tidney. Tidney is what this is called. Tidney. Trump in days, not years. Tidney.
There you go.
But I think it has to be in all caps. And let's get the party started. Then have your party hat ready to celebrate Nancy finally being speechless when she passes the gavel to the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, whose first job will be commencing an emergency congressional investigation into election racketeering. And get ready to be tired of winning again, in all caps.
He must be so exhausted.
They're just, yeah. This is, by the way, there's nothing funny about these monsters have been doing while nobody's watching them, but do you know how, I don't know if you saw the Blacks for Trump guys behind Trump at the rally. I think it was I want to say it was the Ohio one, may have been Sarasota. And it turned out that those guys were the Moorish group that seized the highway in Massachusetts on their way to train in Rhode Island or something. I don't know, their destination's a little sketchy. And if they even had one at all, because they were going to seize a house, and they've done that. They've seized people's houses and said that it's the property of Morocco, and that the Moroccan Americans, the Moorish Americans or Moorish Moroccans, I don't know, the morons that think this is a working plan, think they can seize people's property. One of them tried to seize an amusement park that had been that was in disuse, and he tried to do this while he was in prison for murder. This kind of, it's fun. So if you look at the Blacks for Trump website, that they were all wearing like God's Trump or God's Blacks or whatever shirts.org while they were standing behind him. If you go to the actual link, there's like 3 pages of we support Trump and black people support Trump and we are the black people that support Trump and da-da-da. If you go past the 4th page, it's like, we follow this particular prophet. He says we don't have to obey property rights or need driver's licenses or gun licenses because we're Moors. If you want to join us and you're an African American / Moor, you're allowed. It costs you $50. Follow the links. And then there's a bunch of videos attached to the bottom if you want to just dive into lunacy. If you want to see lectures on why you don't have to pay taxes as a Moor and how Morocco is actually the original the Moroccan citizens are the original citizens of America. I'm getting a nosebleed just talking about it.
That's a lot.
Same thing, by the way. It's nice to know there's a white equivalent. Because it's a diverse community of lunatics out there. You know what I mean? If anything, the Q world and the sovereign citizen movement is becoming as diverse as any other community, and it's lovely.
Indeed.
On this Patriot Soar site, they have a page called Nancy's Gag Gifts. And this is, I guess, these are gotcha videos that talk about Nancy Pelosi. The first one says, watch Nancy block long overdue criminal investigations into MLK Jr. and JFK Jr. Watch Nancy hide from questions about her dark relationship with Jim Jones in Jonestown. That's new to me. That I'm going to have to watch. I'm going to have to get some popcorn. Watch Nancy duck when asked about Ted Kennedy, BLM, Charles Manson, and the race war.
Oh.
As one thing? All right. Watch Nancy love the BLM, the CCP, and the Weather Underground. So these are videos you can watch of her. MJK. Who? All right. I'm
Just
very...
kidding?
and then we go straight into secret satanic sacrifices. This whole pages.
Okay, cool.
Now we're getting... This is... Okay. I just discovered my Saturday afternoon, folks. This is what I get to dive into on your behalf. Is this? Yeah. So Nancy Pelosi is apparently tied up with MLK, the criminal, not the revered minister and civil rights leader. And of course, she's in like a tick with Jonestown and Charles Manson, which of course is all a part of BLM. I would guess is that you think I have a hard time even kind of grasping. Is this a furtherance of Helter Skelter that they're arguing that this is carried? Because Charles Manson, remember Charles Manson, as your conspiracy, as your Ted Kaczynski level conspiracies go, as far as how you're going to take over the world and make it right, as from an activist psychopath point of view, literally the Charles Manson one is one of the dumbest and most simplistic and utterly hack ideas, because understand that Charles Manson believed, and he stole this apparently from another dude, but the first part of it, that there was going to be a race war, that blacks would win because they were physically stronger, and but he believed they weren't smart enough to run the world afterwards, so they would need some white people to run it for themselves, and the Manson family would step in and rule over a kingdom of black people. It was and wait, the best part, the best part of the plan is that he got it from listening to the White Album. Get it? See, the White Album, the White Album. It's can you imagine if Charles Manson had been alive in the 90s and how the Metallica album with Enter Sandman on it would have thrown a monkey wrench into his entire plan? You know what I mean?
Never would have worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Has anybody ever released like a lavender or a peach album on any of these things? We got to take we got to take a break. Serious news after we come back. There. By the way, just in case you're wondering, this plan, this 7-point plan that's being passed out at CPAC, would be the kind of stuff you would see etched in journals written in excrement by some psychopath wandering down the street years ago. And it is now on laminated cards because you don't want people to get too excited and ruin the plan, being passed out at CPAC. Speaking of passed out at CPAC, Don Jr. also spoke there. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Man.
I have a theory.
Why does Don Jr. allow himself to be recorded? It does not hold up.
Yeah, it's a mystery. It's a mystery. I couldn't tell you. My theory is that he's become his dad's opening act, and this is how he makes money. Because somebody passed him something as he walked off stage at CPAC, and I swear to God it was the check.
For real?
Yeah. Like somebody handed him a piece of paper or something. It was folded over. And it looked like his check for speaking. Like I get my check the second I'm walking off stage. And the person who had it walked over and just handed it to him, and he split and went and snorted it. And there was one joke where like Hunter Biden talks about the fact that he once smoked Parmesan cheese because he was carpet farming, and he found something and he thought it was rock and he smoked it, right? And it's talking about like the insanity of addiction, right? And Don Jr. comes out and goes, "Can you imagine the story if it came out that Don Jr. smoked Parmesan?" And I thought he was going to say smoked crack because he hadn't led up to the story about this, and I was like, "There's no way he could say, can you imagine?" Because everybody can. And often does, and he's
60 seconds, Hal.
Thank you. He's so glass-eyed and messed up every day. It's like it's stunning, like how much this dude, like he's obviously high.
Oh yeah,
it's bad. Okay, so let me bring these up. I'm now in love with this website though. I like amazing. Yeah. Coming back in a moment. I've been to, I've never been to CPAC, but I've been to like Politicon twice, and there's kind of like the extremes of CPAC are at Politicon, right? The middle ground of CPAC doesn't exist there. It's not, it has no place at Politicon. But the edges of CPAC, the absolute front runners and their supporters, and the absolute dregs, both show up at Politicon, right? And so you'll find these folks passing out these kind of flyers at Politicon and the like. But they're not usually welcome at places like CPAC. They have to stay out by the merch table, I think. And ever since Hillary Clinton, the Hillarophobia, the Hillary hysteria that the right has had, for all the freaking out about Orange Man bad and Donald Trump derangement syndrome and yada yada, they basically printed the flyer on that kind of behavior with Hillary Clinton. The belief that she is not just a politician they don't like because she helped get S-chip in place so that children could have health insurance when they live below the poverty line. Not just those folks who definitely are the financiers behind that movement, but people who genuinely believe that she is a Satan-worshipping pedophile monster who drinks, kid spine juice and stuff. And it's awkwardly stupid. It's weird. It's beyond weird, But they exist and they kind of hang around the edges of stuff. Well, now they've been fully mainstreamed. And CPAC itself did nothing, was nothing short of pandering directly to that crowd. Right? There's always been, if you have any, I would say anybody who's been to a city council meeting, somebody's going to stand up at some point and blow the night for everybody. There's, you know what I mean? Like, there are people, there'll be citizens groups and their representatives, individuals who come down and have a gripe. There's been a pothole in front of their business for months and months and months, and everybody who hits it almost careens into the front of their store. There's been people who, have a gripe about some, the teachers union or the education board or whatever, those kind of like politically motivated things. And then there's always a guy who comes in there who stands up and drops a giant loose leaf notebook that's held together with string on the podium, and in his 2 minutes tries to read the whole thing about the Rothschilds and the fact that the city council has no authority over him because it doesn't actually exist because the documents to incorporate it are a business document. Therefore, he in this moment decides to hire and fire the entire city council as the new CEO of Schaumburg, right? Those kind of things happen, right? It's the same thing why if there's ever a question and answer segment after a lecture series or a class, I took some extended classes at UCLA in screenwriting back in the day in the 90s. And I learned very early not to stick around because there was always somebody there who, said, I had the idea for Jurassic Park and Independence Day and Die Hard, and Hollywood stole my script and made it 3 different movies. You're like, wait, what? So you had an idea that was Jurassic Park meets Die Hard meets Independence Day? Yeah, but they didn't have the vision to make it. How much was the budget going to be? About $14 billion. Right.
Right.
And when did you write the script?
I can't imagine how often that happens.
Okay, I dodged the bullet. I know now to only be there for the actual business Independence Day 3, The Reckoning. That's where CPAC is. That's what CPAC has become. That the fringe Hillary haters that made news at CPAC. Remember back in the day, that was one of the things that stood out. Like, CPAC's this weekend, and it's family values and yada yada, and they're doing their regular perfunctory Republican speeches, which are ultimately frighteningly hypocritical and ridiculous, and invoke the name of Jesus in one hand, and then invoke the idea of allowing people to starve in the desert on our southern border, because it's not our problem, in the same speech, in the same paragraph in some cases, and that while that was still part of the cruelty of modern republicanism, it was also within the kind of boundaries of reality and their belief system, right? Whereas these people, the stiff-armed people, were out selling, Hillary for Guantanamo shirts out in the lobby. They have now taken over that whole organization, and now they've got offshoots of it. There used to be one CPAC conference, right? And there are a lot of people are saying that like the offshoot CPACs are literally just so that Donald Trump will have a rally in those areas, because he's not going to pay for the space to do a rally. Because there's an article out. This was kind of amazing. So Trump did his Wellington, Ohio rally, which is his first one, his launch, right? And it was to attack a Republican, which I'm 100% for. I cannot tell you how much I support this rally and everyone who went to it, and I hope they follow through with everything they spoke of, because they will oust a Republican and then end themselves up in jail. So end up in jail. So I don't care, but hopefully they won't harm any innocent bystanders in the process. But he did not. He rented this fairgrounds. This is the story that I heard at the time. And there was a wedding going on at this fairgrounds. I was less than 15 minutes away from this place, and just would have, if it wasn't a Delta variant, super spreader event, I'd have gone. But and I have been vaccinated, but some of the folks that in my family hadn't yet, or had COVID but had not had their vaccine yet. And so, therefore, I didn't want to bring in this variant possibly on my hands and clothing or what have you from this event, which I had no doubt was there. So I wanted to go. But I had heard the story around this was that Trump had rented this, this space kind of last minute, and they were putting on this rally, and there was this wedding that was going on there, and they were all angry because it took up all the parking for this large wedding that was going on. Turns out Trump did not rent the fairgrounds for his rally. Turns out Trump rented the parking lot for his rally. He wouldn't pay for the actual fairgrounds, the stage where you'd normally see something, the Nuge opening for Damn Yankees, opening for the fill-in Night Ranger crowd. Honestly, a really fun day at the fair. But there's a stage where you can do that, where that's there all the time. Well, that's not where they rented. They didn't rent the fairgrounds. They rented the parking lot at so low a rate that he made them sign an NDA because he was so cheap. Because he wouldn't pay, you're talking literally like it costs $15,000 to rent the actual fairgrounds, and $1,200 to rent a section of the parking lot. And he was so embarrassed by the fact that people would go, "Why wouldn't you just pony up for the $15K?"
Yeah.
If it's a rally, what do you? I mean, this is obviously paid for by funds from that people are raising so he can do these rallies. These are self-perpetuating rallies because he sells merch and all this stuff at these things. It's bizarre. So it turns out also that he uses the Secret Service, and then the ground security he outsources to the local police. They used all the police, the Wellington, Ohio police spent all of their overtime money for the year covering his rally because there's 5 cops in the area. And they had to because he wasn't providing broader security. And they will, at some point, want to bill him for making them do that. They should be able to bill him for the overtime like they would do any concert or event that requires that. But they know he's going to stiff them. And since they're a Trump-friendly district, it doesn't make sense for them to do anything but eat the cost. So this is happening everywhere they go. This is and so the CPAC gathering, which by the way they dropped the Nazi rune shape for the stage, and it was simply just a giant as he's to go to the McGregor Poirot fight or whatever, whoever he's fighting.
Oh yeah.
on his way, on our dime, on the taxpayers' dime, right? Because and all the while he'll stay at Trump, god awful down here, and then he'll go to Arizona to push the furtherance of the next final maybe recount, which is going on, which is madness. We'll talk about that when we come back. There is going to be another recount in Maricopa County.
Right on.
This is the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. So
I think this is the one. They're going to get it all figured out.
Yeah, this is the final recount, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to. Let's see. Another.
I wonder why they don't say we have so much money left over. We're going to.
So weird. To restart, like, it's a little choppy today, and I apologize. In there, yeah. Speaking of which, culture's culture. They could turn around and hand him a signed NDA in return, so he can't speak or lie. Yeah. Let's see. The fun. Oh, it's buffering. Sorry, Johnny's mug is as big as my iced tea pitcher on screen. Yeah. They didn't run out of fingers and toes yet. Bonjour, ça va bien? All right, let me move this over here where I can see. Yeah, for some reason, like I had. Oh.
We're back in 20. Did you need more time?
No, we're good. We're good. Yeah.
Okay.
Just restarting my iPad because it's being weird too. Always something. It's always something. Till it's nothing. We'll get there. Right on. And a hype train.
I know I'm only on one day a week. I get it. I'm going to have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's
I
solid.
like the bar-da-dar.
It makes sense. Come on, work with me.
I love it.
So this time around, the Maricopa County recount is going to be conducted by the state senators who brought you the first one, and and my guess is it. Well, I think I was offended like a lot of folks and embarrassed by this ridiculousness that they're gonna another recount for God darn who was it, Mr. Singlenden? And the more I thought about it,
Was that Chevy Chase?
yes, it was Fletch. I'm in bridge construction, and these take up a lot of space. So a lot of times I will react to stuff that Trump does or that his clan does, or those folks, like the voter suppression laws that they're pushing, at face value, like a lot of folks do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Think of it as an audit of the audit, because you would have to. You're responsible, like the Cyber Ninjas is not responsible for maintaining these records for years or any of that kind of stuff that's in the state's, system or whatever. I mean, they literally sent all the voting records of Maricopa County in Arizona to a secret lab in Montana, run by a guy who nobody can see. They're allowed to do seemingly almost whatever they want, as long as what they do on camera, it looks legal to the people who fomented this nonsense in the first place. But the state senators have a legal responsibility They have a job they have to do. They can get in trouble. If any of them, if there's a stack of 50,000, a box of 50,000 ballots, and they hand it to a buddy of theirs, and it comes back with 47,000 ballots in the box, they're on the hook for that. And that very well may be why the need for yet another quote-unquote recount, because they're not saying it's an audit. They are not calling it another audit of who voted for who or the tallies themselves. It is literally a recount, not of the content of the ballots, who voted for who, but the number of ballots. That the number of ballots that left on its way to Cyber Ninjas is the same number of ballots that came back. And in this area, in that reasoning, I am 100% sympathetic with the state Senate of Arizona, because there is simply no way to not do this. Because and any discrepancy they're going to find should be a huge legal story and a warning to Cyber Ninjas and anybody that's working for them, that if they're shredding Biden votes during this process, which is their dream gig, or the like, or trying to bringing in their own Trump votes, trying to break the algorithm they say is already broken, and adding Trump votes to this. But all we got to do is smuggle in 10,000 sheets of paper. That's not too hard, right, guys? If they return a stack of things that was a different number, less votes for Biden, more votes for Trump, than they received, that in and of itself will be an enormous story. Yes, and James Freeland in the chat is saying that the Cyber Ninjas have destroyed the entire chain of evidence, and that's exactly the goal. Because now it's like the alleged Hunter Biden laptop. Once it's in Rudy Giuliani's hands, and considering his position as being the lawyer and consigliere of Trump during the re-election campaign, and his fight against the big fight invoking the big lie, that having it hidden in his apartment for 2 years and handing out only copies of it, that he, of an initial hard drive he bought in Ukraine, let's not kid ourselves, from Russian sock puppets that he was in bed with his security firm, that chain of evidence, there is no situation, none whatsoever, where if you wanted to arrest Hunter Biden for any of the crimes alleged in any of these schemes, that you could present the quote-unquote laptop as evidence, because any lawyer would get it thrown out immediately. The chain of evidence on it is so absurd, there is no way to guarantee the authenticity of it. It's so bad in the handling of evidence, because he used to work for SDNY. He used to be a lawyer. Used to, on Rudy's part, considering his attraction to Borat's daughter, who he believed at the time was 15 years old in the video clip in the Borat movie. 15, folks. 15 years old, alone in a hotel room. Rudy Giuliani reaching into his pants, touching her on her backside. Tucking. He was tucking. This guy believes, and again, it's intent and your awareness that makes the crime, because ask Chris Hansen. It doesn't have to be a real 15-year-old you're chatting with online to get you busted. Right. It can be an actor posing as such to get you busted. That still qualifies, right? And in this situation where, if Rudy Giuliani legitimately believes, or says he legitimately believes, which is the tough part, that there are underage girls on said laptop, he is copying and disseminating nude pictures of underage girls, which is a crime. Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever find a laptop or hard drive you believe contains evidence, hand it over to the authorities. Do not keep it and make copies and hand them out to newspapers and authorities for your own, and then dole out little slivers of them on a podcast. At some point, you're eating away at the credibility. If it was real evidence, and if it's fake evidence, you are disseminating blackmail or running an extortion scheme. It's super obvious. Yeah. Anyway, so the same issue is going on with the Cyber Ninjas. Everything that's happened has broken so many rules that anything they allege to find would never stand up in court, even if they had actually found someone. This is why you can't be sloppy in these important moments. Why you can't just, play ducks and drakes with the whole thing, because eventually somebody go, yeah, we found somebody, but it was, fruit of the poison tree, illegal search and seizure. We do not know where those documents were, and we cannot authenticate them 100%. So therefore, we can assume, because this was a political rivalry, that these documents are faked. That's it. Case dismissed. You're done. So, and if you really believed this stuff, if you really believed that there was these shenanigans were going on in Maricopa County and in Arizona and all this stuff, how dare you be this sloppy with this stuff, so that if you found something, it would get thrown out. It would not actually warrant any of the changes that you believe should come about because of this. If I was a Q, I'd be ticked. I would be I would feel betrayed by cyber ninjas for screwing the pooch this badly. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Don't forget, patreon.com/HalSparks, great way to support the show. Of course, you can also do that at infotainmentwars.com or fwank.com if you're on Twitch. We'll be back. Fwank. Have you heard the story of Binks the cat? The cat that survived the Surfside condo collapse. He was on the 8th floor of one of the buildings that fell, and apparently, was under some rubble, but had jumped free at one point and lived for a couple weeks under there. So they're calling him Binks the miracle cat. Yeah.
How do they know his name is Binks?
Because I think he had a tag. I mean, it's from the building. Yeah. House cat named Binks somehow survived the tragic Champlain Tower South condo collapse and was reunited with its humans on Friday. So, okay, so they survived. They had to leave, and their cat made it out. A cat living on the 9th floor of the South Tower was recently found near the site. A few hours ago, he was reunited with his family. I'm glad this small miracle could bring some light to the lives of a hurting family today. Yeah. Aw. Boy, hey.
You go, Binks.
Huh? Binks.
I said, you go, Binks.
You go, Binks. Yeah. So there's so much ridiculousness. There's a certain point where it almost like if there's a tired of winning, it's there's a tired of like whirling as well, where you're just like your head spins. Like there's so many crazy stories at once, and it's almost like part of a town's power went out, so the other side of town just started blinking back to life. Like, oh, that movie theater went out of business, so the one over here, we're going to reopen this one. And so stuff is starting to slowly, the lights are starting to flicker back on. And normal news is starting to work its way in again. We talked about that a little bit last time.
Yes.
But, where's the one story? Like the story of the sex magic Bonnie and Clyde that pulled off a daring heist. Where is it? Branson, and Bezos, trying to go to space, and one up each other going to space. And right. Bezos is now taking one of the first female Mercury astronauts while no women went up in the Mercury program. She's like 80 years old. She's 80 something. There was one point where they were training female astronauts just in case. They decided that it would be bad for the space program if a woman died in going to space early on.
I suppose.
Yeah.
An 80-year-old woman?
No, back when she was young.
Oh, way back
in the
when.
Mercury,
Okay.
in the Mercury and Apollo things, and that's why one of the main reasons why women weren't astronauts for a while is because they were worried that if one of them died, it would set people's outrage. Men die all the time doing crazy shit, but if we kill a woman, they're gonna freak out and drop our funding. And at the time, they're absolutely right. That absolutely would have happened. Now, thankfully, we've advanced, and equality is helping us to be completely
Let 'em die.
Be completely okay with a woman dying. Right.
Throw him in the grinder.
If a guy can die, she can die. Whatever. It's freedom. But in the back then they were like, if a woman dies in this process, the nation is going to go, you guys are you're overstepping. And so she didn't get to go. She didn't get to go for that very reason. And now she's going to go. Bezos has taken her up in his
Wowie.
At 80 something.
Whether she likes it or not.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they didn't ask.
She's not signed off on this.
She's been abducted. She's going in an Amazon package, which I thought was weird. She's going to sit on the doorstep of the moon for 6
and the
hours.
box is just
in the
way
heat.
too big. It's way more box than they needed for her.
Right. Yeah, it totally is. But there's plenty of padding in there. Can you imagine? I would love to see them taking off, and they're all surrounded by that bubble pack
The
wrap.
weird
Coming back in
pillows.
15.
Yeah, the pillow wrap. Yeah.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Damn puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
By the way, 773-763-9278 is our number, and we are here every Saturday, 9 to 11 Pacific time, 11 to 1 Central time. And there's been a lot of
Screw you, Eastern time. Figure it out.
Yeah, you'll do the math. And don't get me started on Mountain. Get out of here with your Mountain.
That doesn't exist. We've discussed this. There is no Mountain time.
No, what kind of Ayn Rand nonsense is this? We had to create a special time zone just for people who live in a hollowed out mountaintop, making Reardon metal,
Mountain time.
paying for everything in gold coins like they're John Wick's carpenter.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. So we've, over the last, I guess 3 months in particular, we've been watching right-wing talking points die a horrible death. Who can forget lumber prices? I think, that's one of the big ones. Watching Republicans just drop lumber into every look at the price of lumber, And then, of course, the inflation that's being caused by bottlenecks in supply chains left over from COVID as people start going back online. And the one that I don't think anybody is talking about, with enough fervor anyways, is the bottleneck and the lowering of supplies, the supply side of things that's coming from the fact that we and a lot of the world aren't doing business with China like we did pre-COVID. That industry, while it still exists, is not coming back at the number that it was previously, and that there is a lag, and that China is looking at an economic downturn as a direct result of COVID, and TPP, which the Obama administration, but yeah, exactly, I'm down with TPP. TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, was to create an alliance to help act as a bulwark, as a wall, to use the vernacular of things that always work, as a wall against the Chinese ascension in manufacturing in Southeast Asia and the surrounding territories. That in the face of China's volume of people, the land resources they had, and the factory, and this quite frankly, the leg up they had from the WTO over the years, that Vietnam and Cambodia and Thailand and Taiwan and other countries didn't have. The TPP was looking to kind of help reinforce those countries' ability to compete, because there's no material difference in the abilities of Chinese people in the mainland in a factory in Shenzhen and people in Thailand or Taiwan or any of these countries. The only thing that was stopping them was Chinese soft blockades of financing in those areas, and material blockades slowing their ability to get goods and services out of those parts of those countries into the rest of the world, giving China a leg up in all those areas. And the rise of Alibaba and the drop shipping movement in the United States through Amazon and Walmart.com and other sites, including Etsy, by the way, which has largely been taken over by drop shipping. Which, if you're not familiar with drop shipping, it's find a product that a Chinese company makes, or any factory in the world, but the large portion of them were Chinese. Find a product on Alibaba that they make, sunglasses, and then create a drop shipping arrangement with Amazon, meaning that when somebody orders on Amazon, it bounces through and is shipped from China directly to them. So you're like an intermediary Amazon store for the stock that's in this Chinese company's warehouse or whatever they make for you. And in some cases, the dropshipping, where you'd order a bunch of them, they would send them to an Amazon warehouse and they would sit there until people ordered them. And you would be in on the cost of it, but only a minor amount. And it's where you're seeing people take look up a plastic pitcher or metal pitcher for plants or whatever, and look at the volume of reviews and explanations of what it is. And, it's way too much for a plastic pitcher. But what it is this drop shipping scheme where people are making $40,000 a month selling stuff on Amazon that they never even touch.
Yeah.
And that was the rise of a large portion of the drop shipping business growing, and Amazon and Walmart competing for it. And then, of course, everyone buying everything online last year during the pandemic, that kind of was jacking this thing up to frightening heights, and largely based in China. Well, now that's all changing, and a lot of the world, the European Union, the United States, Canada, and other countries are understandably nervous about getting large shipments and doing large amounts of business with China, considering the next COVID could be right around the corner if they're lax with their safety standards again, or they just don't have a system in place for stopping the spread of something like that. The last three coronaviruses have come from China. MERS was before that, I believe, and came from the Middle East, hence Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. So, over the last few months, the story is that inflation is being caused by Carter-like administration policies by Biden, and we're in the 70s again. The Russians are hacking pipelines, and even though that is the only thing that caused the temporary shortage in fuel on the East Coast because of that specific pipeline. Don't think about that. Think about the fact that gas prices went high for a little while and a Democrat is in charge, and he kind of reminds you of Carter. That's the root of the argument over the last little bit. That was it. Just think Carter administration. Think 70s, and then what's going to happen is a right-wing revolution like Reagan 2.0, right? Even though Trump was supposed to do that and didn't, there's a lot of parallels. You could argue that Reagan's ignoring of AIDS, the AIDS crisis, for a good long while, kind of, has parity and parallels with the Trump's refusal to recognize the threat of COVID as it rose. Yeah. But over the course of the last 3 months, we've been watching these talking points die. Lumber, the inflation is spiking because of the gas prices, or whatever. Gas prices are basically where they were for the summer in 2019, and with an extra 5 cents because they're making up for what they didn't sell all during COVID because no one was going anywhere. And that's where the Republicans seem to have a problem right now with the concept, like they have a difficulty with the concept of consent, they have a difficulty understanding supply and demand. And over, we are seeing them blaming the Biden administration for things they see as permanent that are only temporary, that the Biden administration and everybody working in it, and the Democrats in Congress specifically, are working to solve, to fix, and one of the funniest, I think, complaints they have right now is all the open jobs. So they spent all this time fighting the $15 minimum wage, saying it's ridiculous and that it'll never happen and it's going to put businesses out of business and yada, yada, yada. And yet, their same complaint is that folks don't want to go back to work because they're getting this sweet government cash. When in reality, a good portion of the people that aren't going back either are starting businesses at a faster clip than ever. The number of IPOs, which is the top end of, when initial public offerings of big companies, the number of those has gone up incredibly over the last year, in the last 5 months rather, because of last year, because of a lot of businesses that went under, and people are forming new companies or bonding with another company and creating a united, like nationwide bakery service, because their bakery in this one town ultimately made all their money via mail order, recognized they could do it nationwide, started doing it, saw a balloon in business, was hiring more workers, during a pandemic, which shocked them, and now are at a level where they're like, if we got investors, we could be the next Nestle. That stuff is happening now, and one of the fascinating parts for me was that the timing of Biden's speech on competitiveness in business. I want to talk about that when we come back, because it was a fine speech, and in it there were a lot of, there's 72 aspects of this executive order, from baggage refunds from airlines and Wi-Fi refunds from airlines to non-competition clauses being illegal when it's between, you work here at McDonald's, you can't work at Taco Bell, even if they want to pay you more. There was a myriad of things in here, all with a strategy behind them, and that is the stark difference between what Biden is proposing and proposed and what Trump said he was going to do and never did. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. 773-763-9278 is our number. We'll be back.
People are going to call.
Oh, they are. Yeah. I have to put my story.
Ben.
Yeah. So. Darn you, Skype/Zoom/ whatever. All of them just eat so much because of what they've got going back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll do the Charlottesville story as the happy ending too. Forgotten about you. I'm just working on pulling up my the stories that I had initially put in there on that, and I had to take them down. So the really fascinating part to me, where is it? There we go. This is the fact sheet. I love the, Biden's a socialist communist and the commie socialist and a comedy socialist. And in all of this, there's not a single thing that qualifies even remotely as more than just
coming back in town.
Thank you. Normal consumer protections.
If only he were a socialist.
Right. Well, no. Obviously, we don't need a Stalinist.
This is Damian Perdue of Think
Theory
Radio.
Silly.
Saturdays at 6 p.m.
Dictatorship.
You're listening to House Sparks Radio
True socialism is not all that bad.
I thought there was going to be a new one every break. I was so excited.
On air.
You want more, Hal? We'll give you more. Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk. WCPT 820. Hoo-yah!
So, some of you may have heard my diatribe about the use of the word socialism in normal conversation. Johnny and I were kind of talking about this in the backgrounds that everybody, Biden releases this executive order that basically curtails like wanton disregard for human rights by businesses and normal competitive practices, which are ways that that antitrust laws were set up to make sure that while you could have a business, you couldn't, as part of your business, once you got strong, guarantee that you could have no competitors by destroying their ability to conduct business. You can always beat them in the marketplace of ideas and concepts, but you can't just wipe them out, Netscape style, right? Which is, by the way, what saved Apple, because to cover for the fact that Microsoft was undermining Netscape, Bill Gates gave a bunch of money to Apple during the Gil Amelio years to keep them afloat and going like, oh, I'm not anti-competitive. I just gave a bunch of money to keep Apple alive. And like, yeah, that's because Apple is Windows R&D development for UI and everything else, and you copy everything that they do. Yeah. So if they go under, you're either gonna have to switch to their system to make all new stuff. He's a socialist, Marxist, BLM Marxist socialist person. And everything in this is actually normal, functional capitalist market. It's not free market nonsense. It's not laissez-faire capitalism, which is what the Rand Pauls and the right wings would want of the world, until they don't. They want, it's free market capitalism for me, not for thee. Meaning that there should be protections against, I should be able to avoid the Nigerian prince scheme, but you shouldn't be able to. That you should be free to be suckered, not me though. If that happens, I want the ability.
It's the old libertarian "F you, I got mine."
That's right. Yeah, pulling the ladder up after themselves once they've gotten into the lifeboat. Famously, Paul Ryan, having gone to college on Social Security benefits after his father died, and then not wanting anybody else to get those very benefits. That sounds, authoritarian. It seems slightly fascist. It's certainly gross ethically, but it in many ways proves that even Social Security is not a socialist system, because you can get the money that you can spend anywhere you want. He got that money from the government. He was able to spend it not at a state university, the University of Socialism in the United States. He was able to go to any college he wanted to, spend it however he wanted. It was capitalist structure, spending scheme. And then he was able to get elected to Congress and be in a position to vote on scuttling those very benefits, which means it's taxation with representation, not socialism, because the fact that Social Security can be manipulated by the electorate through their representatives makes it not social. It's like so tiring, the conversation. But over the, and John, Johnny mentioned, like you said, as if socialism would.
I was like, if only.
Right, exactly, and I'm like, no, not if only. Being a believer in social programs and a social safety net is not the same as socialism. Socialism has to do with the production of goods and the ownership of businesses and all that kind of stuff. It is akin to the mean version of fascism. Is corporations and the government are in line together, and that's how all. I should be able to assume that if I put a bag in the airplane, it will get there with me. I do not. Yes, exactly. I'm not paying a fee so that it arrives sometime after. I could just mail it to myself cheaper, if that were the case in a lot of ways. And then, of course, the Wi-Fi refunds. If you get on, you pay for Wi-Fi, and then it doesn't work, or it's out on the plane, you get a refund immediately, like you should, because you paid for a Monsanto for using his seed, for saving seed, because it had their genetic code of their specially designed super wheat in it. And it turns out he didn't buy their seed. Their seed was blowing over onto his field from other, because that's how plants germinate naturally, that the seed as it drifted from other fields next door, got mixed in with his seed, which he just saves and grows on his own, and contaminated his crop. He didn't pay for that GMO seed. He didn't want that GMO seed. And it showed up in his stuff. And so he ended up suing in reverse and winning for them contaminating it. But ultimately, one of the ways that, if you're going to, saving seed being one of these things, but also if you're going to buy grain from a market and get it regular enough from, wherever you're getting it, that if Monsanto buys up the store that sells it, and yes, because of legal reasons, they keep in stock a certain amount of the other seed or the other available, plants, they don't have to keep enough of it for anybody to get to expand their farm beyond, a micro farm or a hobbyist. And so they guarantee through those non-competitive process that you can do one. If you want a real farm, you can buy their seed, which you have to license, and if you try to save it and just make your own, you will get sued or put in jail. Or you can stay small forever. And there are, that is one of the primary reasons why the Economic Competition Council, the White House Competition Council, which is on top of the Economic Council, was formed. This is Section 4. There's established a White House Competition Council called the Council, for all practical purposes, within the Executive Office of the President. The Council shall coordinate, promote, and advance federal government efforts to address over-concentration, monopolization, and unfair competition in or directly affecting the American economy, including efforts to implement the administrative actions identified in this order, develop procedures and best practices for agency cooperation, coordination of matters for overlapping jurisdiction and described in Section 3 of the order, identify and advance additional administrative actions necessary to the further policy set forth in Section 1 of this order, and to identify any potential legislative changes necessary to further the policy set forth in Section 1 of this order. The Council shall work across agencies to provide a coordinated response to overconcentration, monopolization, unfair competition in or directly affecting the American economy. The Council shall also work with each agency to ensure that agency operations are conducted in a manner that promotes fair competition as appropriate and consistent with applicable law. Now, that's the sentence that's in almost every executive order, and certainly all the Biden ones anyways, is that the executive orders have to deal with the fact that you can't write law. The president can't surreptitiously write a law. So in coordination with consistent with applicable laws and in coordination with other law on these particular areas. They always say that the Paris Climate Accord, it has all these. It's suggested, and it would be nice if, and as long as it doesn't.
Is that the one where they had to
economy.
register all the superheroes?
Yes. No, that's the
Sokovia.
The Sokovia Accords, right? Which Captain America was against, and I understand. He was, because freedom. And by the way, the council, this is fascinating to me. So this is going to be seen as a draconian and evil gathering of overlords trying to direct business from a socialist thing, right? You could just hear the pitter pat at what's the pundit dude, the Raw pundit or whatever his name is, the right winger. He's like, this is the council. It's a council of socialist overlords directing business. And it says, first of all, it has to be consistent with applicable law. Then it says, the council shall not discuss any current or anticipated enforcement actions. So there's no punitive aspect where they're even allowed to discuss. And the meetings, as it's an official council created an executive order, the council meetings and the discussions around it and their emails and their contacts in between dealing with anything in this council are public record. So they can't even in their roundtable go, I can't wait to sue, blah, blah, and let's get Exxon and put their guy in jail. Like, they can't even joke about that without it showing up in the public record and being in violation of the executive order. Council should be led by the Assistant of the President for Economic Policy and the Director of National Economic Council. Who shall serve as chair as the council? In addition, they'll have they'll have the following members: Secretary of Treasury, Defense, Attorney General, the Secretary of Agriculture, Commerce, Labor, Health and Human Services, Transportation, the Administrator for the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, which is where we get the broadband issues, and the heads of such agencies and offices as the chair may from time to time invite to participate. So that they're dealing with all these different industries. Oh man, I rode past the break, didn't I? We got to take a break. Yeah, by a lot. Beg your pardon. We'll be back right after this. It's House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Oops. I got so excited about wonky legal stuff.
You got wonky.
I did. Yeah, I had this pulled up on my browser, but I had to shut it down, so I want to find one thing. Yeah, so the part I was referencing as far as the seed stuff, in paragraph 5 of, I think it's section 6, yeah, it says, to help ensure that the intellectual property system, which while incentivizing innovation, does not also unnecessarily reduce competition in seed and other input markets beyond that reasonably contemplated by the Patent Act. In consultation with the Undersecretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property and Director of the United States Patent and Trademark Office, submit a report to the chair of the White House Competition Council enumerating and describing any relevant concerns of the Department of Agriculture and strategies for addressing those concerns across intellectual property, antitrust, and other relevant laws, so that they're not choking out, farmers who, by the way, get natural seed from their own stuff. Let's say they're growing seed of their own. And again, they're downwind from some idiot who's using the Monsanto stuff, and it gets in their stuff. But they're actually using CRISPR-Cas9 in their garage to make their own version of the seed, which is this gene splicing thing that costs you about $900, which, will shepherd in an era of the island of Dr. Moreau within a decade. There's an argument that it's already being done in China. But CRISPR-Cas9 is a way you could genetically manipulate living organisms and create your own strain of them. And, modifying plants for resilience in travel and anti-pest reasons and yada yada. There's that's what Monsanto does. That's what it's doing with its giant lab. You can now do that in a garage. And if somebody's doing that in their garage,
so weird,
and they come up with their version of wheat that does this, their own...
Back in 15.
Gary's a GMO, Gary's modified organisms.
Yes, we have phone calls, by the way.
Okay, great, thank you. If somehow they're downwind from the Monsanto stuff, and Monsanto goes, aha, that's how we stop them.
Attention! Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Now, I don't know why, I know why people aren't reading this, but I don't know why they haven't, we haven't seen some good readouts where at least like I guess the attempt at being funny Fox shows like The Five and Greg Gutfeld's show, whatever those things are, that they don't go into the deep reads of this executive order for some fun material, because like here's section J goes to protect the vibrancy of the American markets for beer, wine, and spirits, and to improve market access for smaller, independent, and new operations. The Secretary shall submit a report to the chair of the White House Competition Council assessing the current market structure and conditions of competition, including an assessment of any threats to competition and barriers to new entrants, including any unlawful trade practices in the beer, wine, and spirits market, such as certain exclusionary, discriminatory, or anti-competitive distribution practices that hinder bottle sizes, permitting or labeling that may unnecessarily inhibit competition by increasing costs without serving any public health, informational, or tax purpose. So we had a friend in high school whose dad was in the bottling business.
Paul?
Yeah. And in Wisconsin, like Budweiser and that kind of stuff. And they did most of the bottling there. And that was a big part of their industry. And, like to make a new bottle or make available a new bottle or just, one of the ways that you could do it, let's say you were a big company, is you make a proprietary bottle that's yours. You patent your bottle type, your bottle size, the cap, and all that kind of stuff. And you own it outright, and you license this distribution company to only do that stuff, so that if the distribution company wants to start bottling something else, they can't put it in a similar size bottle like they used to in the 40s when a soda bottle was a soda bottle was a soda bottle. Now they go, well, if we're going to make you a bottle, we have to make you a proprietary bottle, or you can buy one of these standard ones, but the standard ones no longer fit the trays because the big companies made sure that the trays in 7-Eleven only hold their certain sizes. So we can make you one, but typing it and creating a mold and then creating multiple molds and all that kind of stuff. The startup cost of your own proprietary bottle is the outsized cost for even making the beer in some places. That's why a lot of microbreweries are live endeavors where people just get it in a glass. But when they want to break out from that into bottling it and selling it and transporting it and all that kind of stuff, there are these, there's subtle ways they make it more expensive. And it weeds out some of the competition unless they can get some backing. And a lot of the backing comes from the giants themselves so that they can't do it. So there you go. Anyways, there's a bunch of that stuff in here that is really, clearly normal operation of business and normal operation of government. This is one of the most reassuring documents I've seen come out of this White House, and they've done some good ones, that just pertain to, can we get on with it, please? Can we stop wondering if there are tunnels full of children under the White House and bothering pizza store places and accusing, like Hollywood elites of drinking, baby spine juice? And can we just, people are trying to have businesses. You're a lunatic. Get off my lawn, and because we're trying to sell lawnmowers. I'm trying to show them how this lawnmower works. We would just like
baby
it to be...
spine juice is sweeping the nation.
It is. It's sweeping the nation, and they're having a hard time bottling it. My new unique liquor that I'm going to liqueur. It's a liqueur. It's got to be a liqueur that I'm selling in tiny little bottles, like airplane bottles, like this big, called adrenochrome. But it'll be spelled with like umlauts over the O's and that kind of stuff, like adrenochrome. And it's gonna be it's gonna be huge. Although I'm seeing a lot of I'm getting a lot of anti-competitive stuff with the big adrenochrome producers.
Sure.
Yeah, as you would. We do have some calls, and before we get to the happy ending, I want to take at least a couple of them. Who do we have first on the line?
Up first is Zach from Woodstock.
Excellent. The city, not the concert from the 60s, I hope. Hey, Zach, welcome.
That is correct. The city that Warren Underwood is representing. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
Thank you very much for giving me a lot of my fodder to use against Republicans out here every day. I do have a random question for you. I am getting married in Vegas on the 30th. It's kind of a short notice, so a lot of my friends and family weren't able to attend. My fiance and I would like to extend an invitation to you in summer if you would like to attend.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. I appreciate that. Do we have to dress as Elvis and one of his silver-haired old ladies? Because we've got these outfits for our own personal use.
You're burning a hole in their pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
You can come as you like. It is casual attire, so I will not... and we wouldn't ask you for any stand-up or any shtick. If you want to throw a "Hey guys" in there, once in a while.
Sure, guys. We'll do it. Yeah, I am ordained, so I could do it as Don Jr. But first of all, congratulations, and secondarily, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter and let us know the details, and I will give you what I would call the Hollywood confirmation, which is I will definitely try and make it. That's what we yes.
It's a totally random, ask, and just because you're out in Vegas and that's where we're getting it done, it's such short notice with a lot of family and friends not able to attend.
Yeah.
We thought it would be a way to reintroduce you to the world, I
love that, Zach. I do. Nerd Halen is performing on the 1st in LA. So I don't know if I'm going in the night before. If I'm not, it's a very strong possibility. I will definitely try and make it.
I will DM you on Twitter the information.
Excellent. Thanks, man. And congratulations to you and your betrothed as well. It's very exciting. So good for you guys. Yay. Look at that. That was almost like that could have been the happy ending. That could have been part of the happy ending thing.
Yeah.
Let's grab another call because we got a couple minutes before we need to take a break. So let me because I know they've been stacking. Who do we have next?
We got Vince from Virginia.
All right, sure. As you would. He's not virgin, is he?
Hey, Al,
yeah.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to talk about why Democrats can't brand or can't seem to brand. But you mentioned one of these shows where they're trying to be funny on Fox.
Yeah,
and
Gutfeld.
It really made me think of something different. They were talking about Biden and that pause. They're really trying to make a big deal out of that pause, you know? and on the show they were saying, "Oh, I'm pretty sure Putin is shaking in his boots now." You know, this old man. And it made me stop and think. The guy said, "Well, what if they met?" And it made me stop and think. Okay, if Biden is that frail, as they're assuming,
right?
And it really any president that's up in age is frail to some degree.
Sure.
Would you let him go in the room alone with Putin and his transcriber, where they could threaten him, inject him with anything, hold him hostage, like there's no security, like Trump did? And I just thought about that. That is so crazy.
Yeah. Well, the idea that Biden himself is somehow that our world leaders are involved in some sort of they're going to leg wrestle for dominance on trade is kind of an embarrassing thought in general. That would be the example of a failed state of affairs in terms of national society or world society. If your argument is about the physical fighting prowess of your leader, are you not in many ways, why are you not devolving back to a Viking tribe at some point as opposed to a world-leading, modern economic force and militaristic force in the world? That said, also the argument that they're ultimately making is that somebody's pulling the strings and Biden's just a frail old man who can't even think and yada yada yada. The part that sticks out to me is that this frail old man who they think can't put a sentence together beat their candidate into stomped a mud hole in him and marched it dry in the election last year, completely flattened him in their debates, embarrassed him everywhere. And they're like, he didn't even leave his basement last year. We're having these giant rallies and he didn't even leave his basement. Yes, he beat you from his basement. Who also beats a lot of people from their basements? The future tech billionaires of the world. Well, think of how many of the Bezoses of the world and the folks like that started out in a garage or a basement as their primary point when they built an empire that is now, a genuine billionaire empire as opposed to Trump's fraudulent fake one. I agree. Go ahead.
I actually love his slow pace and how he speaks. It shows that he's deliberate and that he's actually thinking. And the word wisdom comes
of our nation currently, where jargon can somehow can overwhelm the worth of a conversation if we're not careful, especially on the Democratic side. So if you're being sensitive to that, you're being even more sensitive about your word choice. What if you're a stutterer and the word choice that would make everybody happy is also one of the words that triggers your stutter because of the consonant arrangement or what have you in it? And therefore, you have to think for a second. Give me a second. How am I going to phrase this so that I can say it clearly and it doesn't trigger my stutter and it doesn't offend anybody? The level of hoops this president is jumping through in his communication is enormous compared to others. That said, he's incredibly good at it, considering. And yesterday he held off for a few seconds because he said one of our primary goals in Afghanistan was to escort Osama bin Laden to the gates of hell. And he wasn't sure he wanted to say that, so he goes, look, our primary two objectives, the first was, and you could see him waiting, and his little wry smile that he gets when his Irish temper stuff that he talks about sometimes, and like his previous history of being kind of loose-lipped about stuff, being gaffe-prone or saying stuff that was, getting out ahead of the messaging, which is also, when they were talking about the infrastructure bill, that was one of the things they worried about. So now he's being even more deliberative about stuff. But what he was hesitant to use that phrase, and then when he ultimately said it, he just kind of smiled and moved on from it. Well, Hannity made a meal out of that pause as if he forgot where he was, and it's abundantly clear to any adult watching this that he actually, that's what he said. The other reason is, and he learned this from Obama, is that you slow down your pace so that they can't soundbite you as easily. Trump was very easy to soundbite because he would jibber jabber on and on and on, and then you end up with this situation where he'll give you.
We're going to be appointing very pro-crime judges
and
Yosemites
in like the same paragraph, because he was just. I mean, his speech announcing his lawsuit was a train wreck of those. It was one of the funniest fails as far as working on a teleprompter I've seen him ever do, and it's brand new. It's not like, he never really worked with a teleprompter before, which is not true. He did it on The Apprentice all the time and poorly. But they could edit it, so they didn't worry about it.
Thank Al. My last thing is a compliment. I thank you for what you're doing, man. You're so well informed. You're so sharp. It's scary, and we got to get you even further up into the mainstream, because the ammunition you're coming with is exactly what we need. And
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah. I appreciate that greatly. I really do. And by the way, a lot of what I say on my daily streams is now showing up in other shows, and I appreciate that people are picking that stuff up. It's no accident. And I've received word of who watches my daily stream, and I can see the seeds of some of the stuff that I bring up regularly and we bring up on this show showing up in sort of the more mainstream sources. So I'm proud of that fact, and that's a nice thing. You're absolutely right. We got to take a break, and I appreciate that. That was a really nice call. We'll be back right after this with the happy ending. We actually have one now. Like life. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
You said I don't.
We do. We'll be back right after this. Yeah. The amazing thing about executive orders to me is, like, they recognize these...
Back in 20.
Thank you. They recognize standing law because they have to. So they never create law. And all they do is, it's the directives. The executive orders, as much as people start complaining about them, the executive orders are a statement of policy that says, look, we've got, $80,000 to spend on this problem,
The show may almost be over, but there's no need to cry, as it's now time for the happy ending.
I am happy, you are happy, let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky, let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. 'Cause isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo! I am smiling, you are smiling, let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning, I'll be right by your side in the morning, I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you...
I don't know if this is supposed to go on or if I'm supposed to fade this out.
No, yeah, you don't. I hope you like cereal. It ends right there. You're doing great.
So close to the end.
So close to the end. It was just there. It's that much.
I hope that
I'm sorry.
Like cereal. That's it.
Cereal.
That's it. That was the end of it. It goes clean. It's Devin should give you a sheet, a breakdown. Fear not. I'm kidding, of course. Devin, there needs to be a whiteboard in there. All the crazy stuff you have to do for Hal's show, and then just squeegee it every Saturday. We do have a couple of elements of good news. Normally, I like it to be pure good news. Like there's a story about, you know, how I was absolutely right about 3D printing, and now that there's a charitable company that's actually working on printing 3D houses in refugee camps. So, you know, because they're super expensive. They're nearly free in these areas, and they cost about the same as the temporary structures that anybody else puts up, except they are safer, more secure. They are, you know, they can withstand weather and heat and cold and all that kind of stuff. And after you're done, you can bulldoze them and the concrete's reusable. So, like, there's so many upsides to this as people move on and, you know, transition spaces. That is the future, is 3D printing. If you're going to set up a refugee camp, watch for giant spidery robot-looking things to roll over an area and print houses over the course of a few days, and then they'll move people in. It's going to happen. Count on it. You heard it here. For years first. Now, Biden fired Trump's head of the Social Security Administration on Friday, which is, you know, is good news in and of itself. Andrew Saul. And Andrew Saul seems to be under the impression that he can't be fired. So this is the good news part of it. He's planning on showing up for work on Monday, but digitally. And to run the company to run the Social Security Administration via Zoom, and I guess he's expecting A, for someone to answer, and B, for like, everyone.
What if there's no meeting for him to join? What if the password changed?
Yeah, right. And what if it's super easy. It's sort of the equivalent of like being fired over the weekend, showing up for work on Monday, and your key just jiggles in the lock. It doesn't work. Yeah. You know, they've like
no.
changed
I know what my job still was.
Yeah, there's this new guy doing it. Right. The Bobcat. You know, I lost my job. Why didn't I lose it? I don't know what it is still. It's just every time I go there, there's this new guy doing it. Right. So that's basically no word that Andrew Saul is being replaced by Bobcat Goldthwait, who, by the way, is a director and works on the Kimmel Show right now, and is very would actually be pretty great at it if you understand his politics as a human being. That's the funny part. He would be much better than Andrew Saul at running the Social Security. But Saul was fired. They asked for his resignation on Friday morning, and he refused. So they went, okay, well then you're fired. I mean, they gave him the out. They were like, dude, you can go and go, I resigned. I was a Trump appointee, but I didn't like the way things were going. You know, all the stories you get to tell yourself as you get to play at CPAC. Yeah. But now there's more money in being fired by Biden, would be the argument. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like there's more social capital and more political capital for saying they fired me, even though you were inept and terrible and all that kind of stuff. Like, don't get me started on Louis Joy quite yet, but here's a piece of good.
That postmaster.
Yeah. That postmaster. Charlottesville, I think yesterday, removed the Robert E. Lee statue, which was the center point of the Unite the Right rally that led to a lot of violence. Trump's famous "both sides" statement. Yeah. And the death of a protester run over by one of the white nationalist dudes who came there to chant carrying tiki torches saying Jews will not replace us, which is totally not a weird thing to say while you're walking down a street in public yelling at the top of your lungs.
And so wrong. I mean, they are. I mean, get over it.
Yeah, definitely. They're going to. These guys. Jews are coming across the southern border at a clip we've never seen before. Droves. Yeah, 9-year-old Jews wandering through the desert, like, where's Moses when you need him? And
they got the small hands so they can polish inside the missile shells.
That's right. So they're getting hired by, defense contractors on our southern border to be paid under the table. I'm sure this story works out in someone's brain somewhere. And they're going to make tiki torches for Walmart. And I mean, there's a lot of things that you would expect that group to chant while walking. I honestly was slightly shocked, and I'm sure you were too, that they weren't saying like Mexicans will not replace us or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that, isn't that the mythology? Is that they're taking our jobs?
I do not understand the big conspiracy with Jewish people. I don't.
Yeah,
I've never understood it.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to wrap my head around it a few times when it wells up. I understand sort of ongoing religious battles between, the concept of Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and that's there's obviously been a seat of a hotbed of difficulty in the Middle East around these very things.
Exactly.
It seems odd to me that it makes evangelical Christians and Muslim extremists strange bedfellows in this particular conspiracy. That's always struck me. And the other thing is that it's kind of like the white supremacy argument a little bit as well. That when if you're arguing that Jews who represent like a minuscule number of humans on the planet run everything, and then at the same time talk about how great everything is ultimately run, except when people try to ruin it, then aren't you basically congratulating them on a job well done? I don't get it. I don't understand it.
They come in here and they make everything efficient.
Right, they roll in here and like I mean, I'm sure there's leftover stuff, battles fought for centuries. I mean, and effectively that's what Israeli-Palestinian difficulty is all about. But how it applies to the rest of the world and how Rudy Giuliani can drop George Soros, Super Jew, into every argument he has every time.
Crazy.
It's weird.
Where Hal and I went to high school, that was like, we were the minority.
We were, absolutely.
And it was just a bunch of pleasant people.
It was. We're out of time. But I think ending on the fact that the Jews we went to high school with were a bunch of pleasant people. Even the ones whose parents wouldn't let me.
Except that one, and you know who I mean.
Oh boy! But that wasn't because of their Judaism. That was just because of their car. So thank you to thanks, Johnny. It's a good way to go out on the show. Thanks to all the Jews we went to high school with, except the ones whose parents wouldn't let me date them. I still have a chip on my shoulder about that. I think that was the only thing. Right.
I follow her on Instagram.
Right. Who doesn't? Anyways, thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. I was about to say those.
I think about that every time I see her. I'm like, God, it's so weird.
Yeah.
All right. Good show, guys. See you next week.
Thanks. Absolutely. Thanks, Chicago. Bye. Yeah, it was super weird. Just nope. Why? Because you're not. Oh, okay. Well.
All right then.
That's new. That was, and coming from Kentucky, moving up there, that was my first experience of something like that ever in life. So that I was like, oh, that's a thing. That's a thing.
Yep.
Wow. I now have understood Romeo and Juliet in a way I may not have.
Yep, exactly.
Previously. That's fascinating to me. But anyways, I love you. You're awesome. Be well. And next time we'll try another alternate way of getting you on the show that limits the choppiness. I will say that when I turned off the audio feed, it got smoother on the video, which is so weird. That shouldn't do anything, because we've done that for years. And it might just be that this software that I stream with has a hard time processing where the audio is going on that other site. That might be what's doing it.
When is the new computer coming? Do you think this will help?
Monday. I think so, yes. Well, I'm going to... here, I'll show you. Hold on. I will be sourcing all my audio using this guy through that PC. And then that will be only, even though you'll be, Skyping or whatever on my Mac, that's my main computer, it will be using the NDI feed from Skype to put you in to the software that I stream, so as to not use any computing power at all.
Okay.
Theoretically.
Thanks,
guys.
Work.
Yeah, it has to work. It has to work. God darn. Who's it, Mr. Singelinden? Yeah.
I'm going to go dig a hole in my yard with a shovel.
Sorry, I'm getting a call. Yes, Johnny's shovel. Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry. You were what? You're going to go dig.
Phone.
I do have a hamburger.
I'm going to actually dig a hole in my yard with a shovel.
Nice. So the divorce is final? Is that what you...
Yep.
What?
Well, if that's what you want to call it.
That's right.
We're calling it a trial separation.
That's right. She's going to try a dirt nap for a while. Kind of. You moved into Gacy's old house, right? Is that what this is about? Right?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. I love how you say that like it's almost a possibility. Like playing
And you got to keep them guessing. We'll see if I like lose or gain Twitter followers with this.
Yeah, exactly.
With the new Johnny serial killer angle.
That's right. Well, I think it'll work. I actually do. I think these days you can brand anything.
Yep.
Honest to God, there'll be people like if John Wayne Gacy was alive right now and in the process of killing, there'd be a Twitter war amongst his followers.
Yeah.
Going, I don't know. Some of it. I mean, it's their choice. And then some going,
some people deserved it.
This
I'm
is
glad
what
they're
the homosexual identity it leads you to,
yeah.
right? That would be the other side of it,
sweet.
right? It's part of the gay agenda, right? So wait, and like George Soros funds John Wayne Gacy. He paid his mortgage off. No, he didn't. He drinks. Yeah. Anyways, he wasn't he a Republican fundraiser too, or was that just Ted Bundy? Ted Bundy was a Republican fundraiser.
Know. I always confuse the two, actually.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
No, Gacy's the clown painting guy.
Okay, he's the clown guy.
He's the clown guy. And Bundy was
the guy that some people think is good looking.
Yes, the ladies' man, who everybody said was charming, and I'm like, yish.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna let you go,
right.
and I've got another podcast I'm doing this afternoon with my buddy Stu.
All right, well, have fun with it.
Thanks,
I'll
try.
talk to you soon.
Yeah, let me know what kind of hole you're digging. It's wonderful. I don't need to know. It's none of my business. I'm just gonna. If you see me with a ski mask and a metal detector in your backyard, don't be surprised. Okay.
That's right.
Bye. Bye. See you later. Bye. Boop boop. Yay. All right. Send. There we go. Hi everybody. Hi chat room. Thanks so much. I'm going to sign off. I have some errands to run, and then I'm going to be doing I don't think they're live streaming the podcast that I'm doing later on. I think they do it, we record it, and then they edit and put it out later like a real podcast, as opposed to doing a live stream and calling it a podcast, which some people do with my stuff or they do with their stuff. But either way, it's I will post the link to it later when they send it to me. I don't have all the information, but yeah. Anyways, take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. Thanks, and sorry for the, by the way, Pride 100, happy to be here on a Saturday morning. Thank you, Semantic Romantic. Thank you, Robert, for the super chat as well. Thanks, Jillian, NYC. I can read. Steve Roberts, thanks. It's my birthday, but my present to you, thank you. Thanks so much, Steve. That's awesome. Joint Specialist, thank you. Lauren Epsom. Amoeba Stampede, thanks for gifting the sub to Plainsman 1. That was really great. Peter Mooney, thank you, Dundragon. Natalie, hi. We just all of our new kittens got a forever home, and that's sweet. It's sweet. So we're probably gonna have another round of them soon. So let me know when you need another cat. Motley Blues, thanks for the follow. Fitzgizian, thank you too, and Rogue M42, thank you for gifting those subs. That's really awesome. Thank you again, Shadow Woman and Christina FF and Rogue M42 for gifting the subs to everybody on Twitch. Greatly appreciate that. I'll roll the credits. They lag for some reason. Apologies for that too. That's another new aspect of this, but hopefully Monday it solves then. I will be on the air by hook or crook Monday. If the computer arrives early, I will get it hooked up and we'll be using it for the stream, and hopefully it will work for the regular stream on Monday. If not, I will use my regular setup, and then I will spend the evening putting that one together. So fingers crossed. Thank you to everybody on Patreon for helping us get the computer, and people who contributed via Super Chat and via Venmo to help us do that. Greatly appreciate it. There are a couple of extra parts for it I've ordered that will be arriving at some other time, but it should be functional when it arrives and for our purposes, and then it'll just get better after that. But fingers crossed. Thank you guys so much, finally. And if you want to help, don't forget Venmo's a great way to do it. If you don't feel like super chatting or whatever, and you don't, or you have a Venmo, also paypal.me/HalSparks is another way to do it. So that's it. And if you can't afford to help the show and you don't have any spare money right now to help the show with or anything, I completely understand, and you're just welcome. But while you're at it, thank the folks that do. So all of our patrons who are here regularly, and the people who do super chat and that do give bits and subscribe and become members and all that kind of stuff, just give them a shout out when you notice that they've gone through it. When it notifies you, say, hey, thanks. Let them know that you appreciate that they're making this show possible for you. That's, it's kind of like thank our sponsors, but our sponsors are just people who make the show happen. So, it'd be a nice gesture. I'm just saying. It's a beautiful thing. So thanks to everybody. Thanks to our patrons. And I'll see you guys later. And yeah, that stuff. All right, bye.
Hey, this is Dustin from Streamlabs.